When Scrooge awoke, it was so dark that he could scarcely see. He was endeavouring to pierce the darkness with his ferret eyes when the chimes of a neighbouring church struck the 4 quarters, so he listened for the hour. To his great astonishment, the heavy bell went on from 6 to 7, and from 7 to 8, and regularly up to 12, then stopped.
12? It was past 2 when I went to bed. 12? Why, it is impossible that I have slept through a whole day and far into another night.
Scrooge thought, and the more he thought, the idea of Marley's ghost bothered him exceedingly.
Was it a dream or not?
He lay in this state, listening to the chimes, remembering that the ghost had warned him of a visitation when the bell tolled 1. At length it broke upon his listening ear. Ding-dong.
1/4 past,
said Scrooge, counting.
Ding-dong. 1/2 past,
said Scrooge. Ding-dong.
1/4 to it, said Scrooge.
Ding-dong.
The hour itself, said Scrooge triumphantly, and nothing else.
He spoke before the hour bell sounded, which it now did with a deep, dull, hollow, melancholy 1. Light flashed up in the room, and Scrooge found himself face to face with an unearthly visitor. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man, viewed through some supernatural medium which gave him the appearance of having receded from the view and being diminished to a child's proportions.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
What business brought you here?
Your welfare.
I am much obliged, but a night of unbroken rest would have been more conducive to that end.
Your reclamation, then. Take heed.
Some other time, perhaps.
Rise and walk with me.
It would have been in vain for Scrooge to plead that the weather and the hour were not adapted to pedestrian purposes, or that he was clad but lightly in his dressing-gown and nightcap. The grasp, though gentle, was not to be resisted. He rose, but finding that the spirit made towards the window,
I am mortal and liable to fall.
Bear but a touch of my hand there, and you shall be upheld in more than this.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood upon an open country road, with fields on either side. The city had entirely vanished. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day, with snow upon the ground.
Good heaven, I know this place. I was a boy here.
Your lip is trembling, and what is that upon your cheek?
Nothing.
You recollect the way?
Remember it? I could walk it blindfold.
Strange to have forgotten it for so many years. Let us go on.
They walked along the road, Scrooge recognizing every gate and post and tree, until a little market town appeared in the distance, with its bridge, its church and winding river. Children appeared in great spirits, shouting to each other until the broad fields were full of merry music.
I know these children. We went to school together. Sally Jenkins, Mary Vick, Benjamin Fish, or Toby Beale. Toby.
These are but shadows of the things that have been. They cannot see us or hear us.
Scrooge had rejoiced beyond all bounds to see them. Why did his cold eye glisten, his heart leap up as they went past? Why was he filled with gladness when he heard them give each other a Merry Christmas? What was Merry Christmas to Scrooge? Out upon Merry Christmas! What good had it ever done him?
This is my old school.
It's not quite deserted. A solitary child is left there still. Why didn't you go home for Christmas?
I wasn't wanted. My father turned against me when my mother died. Sent me away. Didn't want to see me ever.
That's hard.
Life's hard. I wish... but it's too late now.
What is the matter?
Nothing. There was a child singing a Christmas carol at my door last night. I should have liked to have given him something, that's all.
Let us see another Christmas.
Brother! Fan, what are you doing here?
Dear brother, I have come to bring you home, dear brother, to bring you home. Home,
little Fan?
Yes, home for good and all, home for ever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be, that home's like heaven. He spoke so gently to me one dear night when I was going to bed that I was not afraid to ask him once more if you might come home. And he said, yes, you should, and sent me in a coach to bring you, and you are never to come back here. But first, we're to be together all the Christmas long and have the merriest time in all the world.
Always a delicate creature, but she had a large heart.
So she had. You're right. I will not deny it, Spirit, God forbid.
She died a young woman, and had, I think, children?
One child.
True. Your nephew.
Fred. Yes.
At that moment they left the school behind them. They were now in the busy thoroughfares of a city. Here, too, it was Christmas time again. But it was evening, and the streets were lighted up. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door.
Do you know this place?
Know it? Why, I apprenticed here. Why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig alive again. And Dick Wilkins, why, bless me, there he is. He was very much attached to me. Yo-ho there, Ebenezer, Dick, it's 7 o'clock. No more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up before a man can say Jack Robinson.
You wouldn't believe how those two fellows went at it. They charged into the streets with the shutters. 1, 2, 3, had them up in their places. 4, 5, 6, barred them and pinned them. 7, 8, 9, and came back before you could have gotten to 12, panting like racehorses.
Hilly-ho, now clear away, me lads, and let's have lots of room here. Hilly-ho, Dick, cheer up, Ebenezer.
Clear away. It was done in a minute. The floor was swept, the lamps were trimmed, fuel was heaped upon the fire, and the warehouse was as snug and warm and dry and bright a ballroom as you would desire to see upon a winter's night.
We're ready, ladies.
Hold your horses, husband.
Horses? Horses? I see no horses, my dear.
In came a fiddler with a music book, and went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast substantial smile. In came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. In came the 6 young followers whose hearts they had broken. In came all the young men and women employed in the business. In came the housemaid with her cousin, the baker. In came the cook with her brother's particular friend, the milkman. In came the boy from over the way, who was suspected of not having board enough from his master, trying to hide himself behind the girl from next door but one, who was proved to have her ears pulled by her mistress. In they all came, one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came, anyhow and everyhow. Away they all went, 20 couple at once, hands half round and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round in various stages of affectionate grouping. Old top couples always turning up in the wrong place, new top couples starting off again. As soon as they had got there, all top couples at last, and not a bottom one to help them. When this result was brought about, old Fezziwig, clapping his hands to stop the dance, cried out, "Well done!" And the fiddler plunged his hot face into a pot of porter, especially provided for that purpose.
Your turn, Mr. Fezziwig.
Oh, no, not tonight, Mrs. Fezziwig.
Oh, persuade him, Ebenezer.
It wouldn't be Christmas without you dancing, Mr. Fezziwig.
Oh, very well.
There were dances and more dances, and there was cake, and there were mince pies, and plenty of beer.
Fezziwig once said to me, when happiness shows up, always give it a comfortable seat.
True, yet such a small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude.
Small?
Why, is it not? He has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves this praise?
You don't understand, Spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or a burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. Say that his power lies in words and looks, in things so slight and insignificant that it is impossible to add and count them up. What then? The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it costs a fortune.
Why, what's the matter?
Nothing. Looking back, perhaps things seem better than they were.
All this was a lie, then?
The world changes. You can't trust anything. But no, it was just like this down to the last mince pie and dance.
When the clock struck 11, this domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took their stations, one on either side of the door, and shaking hands with every person, wishing him or her a Merry Christmas. The cheerful voices died away, and Scrooge and the ghost again stood in the open air.
My time grows short. Quick.
Scrooge now saw himself, older, a man in the prime of his life. He was not alone, but stood by the side of a fair young girl.
The years change people. I don't wish to look.
You must.
It matters little, to you very little. Another idol has displaced me, and if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no cause to grieve.
What idol has displaced you?
A golden one.
This is the even-handed dealing of the world. There is nothing on which it is so hard as poverty, and there is nothing it condemns with such severity as the pursuit of wealth.
You fear the world too much. All your hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the change of its sordid reproach. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one, until the master passion, gain, engrosses it. Have I not?
What then? Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I am not changed towards you, am I?
Our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so, until in good season we could improve our worldly fortune by our own patient industry. You are changed. When it was made, you were another man.
I was a boy.
Your own feeling tells you that you are not what you are. I am. That which promised happiness when we were one in heart is fraught with misery now that we are two. How often and how keenly I have thought of this, I will not say. It is enough that I have thought of it, and can release you.
Have I ever sought release?
In words? No, never.
In what then?
In a changed nature, in an altered spirit, in everything that made my love of any worth or value in your sight. If this had never been between us, tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now? No.
You think not?
I would gladly think otherwise if I could. Heaven knows, when I have learned a truth like this, I know how strong and irresistible it must be. But if you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday, can even I believe that you would choose a dowerless girl? You, who in your very confidence with her weigh everything by gain? Or choosing her, if for a moment you were false enough to your own one-guided principle to do so, do I not know that your repentance and regret would surely follow? I do, and I release you, with a full heart, for the love of him that you once were. You may, the memory of what is past half makes me hope you will, have pain in this, a very, very, very brief time, and you will dismiss the recollection of it gladly, as an unprofitable dream, from which it happened well that you awoke. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
She left him, and they parted.
Go after her. Don't be afraid. Go after her. Spirit, show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me?
One shadow more.
No more. No more. Leave me. Take me back. Haunt me no longer.
They were in another scene and place, a room, not very large or handsome, but full of comfort. Near the winter fire sat a beautiful young girl, so like that lass that Scrooge believed it was the same, until he saw her, now a comely matron, sitting opposite her daughter. A knocking at the door was heard, and such a rush immediately ensued that she with laughing face and plundered dress was borne towards it, the centre of a flushed and boisterous group, just in time to greet the father, who came home attended by a man laden with Christmas toys and presents. And now Scrooge looked on more attentively than ever, when the master of the house, having his daughter leaning fondly on him, sat down with her and her mother at his own fireside. And when he thought that such another creature, quite as graceful and as full of promise, might have called him father, and being a springtime in the haggard winter of his life, his sight grew very dim indeed.
Belle, I saw an old friend of yours this afternoon. Who was it?
Guess.
How can I? Mr. Scrooge? Mr. Scrooge it was. I passed his office window, and as it was not shut up, and as he had a candle inside, I could scarcely help seeing him. His partner lies upon the point of death, I hear, and there he sat, alone, quite alone, in the world, I do believe.
Spirit, remove me from this place.
I told you these were shadows of the things that have been. They are what they are. Do not blame me.
Remove me! I cannot bear it!
Scrooge was conscious of being exhausted, and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness, and, further, of being in his own bedroom, he sank into a heavy sleep.